Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about who do I think is going to win the Heisman in 2022. And while we're at it, we'll even talk real quick about some of the Heisman snubs that did not get to go to New York, and I'm going to go over why they were snubbed. Now, to start out, Bryce Young is a Heisman snub for a lot of people because of the fact he won the Heisman last year, but this season he did not do as well. Instead of having 47 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, this year he only had 27 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, which is still fantastic. But what really hurt Bryce Young is he missed a game and a half due to injury, and that at the end of the day is why Bryce Young did not get a chance to win the Heisman. Hendon Hooker's the second one, and Hendon Hooker had a great season as well. He had 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and he played well for Tennessee all season, but then he tore his ACL against South Carolina, and he missed the Vanderbilt game at the end of the regular season. And that is a big reason why Hendon Hooker was not able to have a chance to win the Heisman, because when you're not able to play in certain games because of injury, that gives you less games to put up stats versus other quarterbacks. And Blake Corum of Michigan, he's another guy that had a great season, especially for a running back. He had a great season for Michigan, but he got injured as well. He missed about two and a half games, and that at the end of the day is why Blake Corum, Bryce Young, and Hendon Hooker did not have a chance to win the Heisman. A couple others, Bijan Robinson, tailback for Texas, had a great season, but it wasn't enough to be a Heisman candidate. And Drake May of North Carolina, he had a great season at quarterback as well, but he really trailed off at the end of the season. In the last 3 games for North Carolina, he didn't play as well, and North Carolina really took a downward trend at the end of the season, and that's why he didn't get a chance to win the Heisman either. But all of these guys were super close, and they definitely deserve consideration, but they fell just short. Now on to the Heisman finalists. Stetson Bennett for me is at number 4, and a lot of people would agree, because you can argue that Stetson Bennett probably should not be a Heisman finalist. He's had a great season. He's thrown for 3,425 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. A 68.1% completion percentage really helps as well. And he's rushed for 7 touchdowns on the ground. He's had a pretty good season, but his stats are not as good as the other quarterbacks that are ahead of him on the Heisman candidacy list. And that's for me why he's at number 4. The only reason why he probably made it is because Georgia's the number 1 team, and they wanted to have a representative from Georgia. But that's the only reason. Nothing against Stetson Bennett. I think he's had a great season, but he probably, of all 4 of the candidates, should have been the one that probably did not make the list, but I understand why he did make the list. Up next, we have C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud has thrown for 3,340 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, and he does not have any rushing touchdowns. I think that hurts his numbers a bit because he does not run the ball much to avoid injury, which I understand. But his passing numbers are great. 37 touchdowns and 6 interceptions is fantastic. But he did not win the Heisman last year, throwing 44 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And this year he had fewer touchdowns and the same amount of picks. His completion percentage is at 66.2%, which is good. But Ohio State, he's played well for them all season, but I just don't know if he's done enough to win the Heisman. Just the it factor, I just don't think he had it. And I know that a lot of people be like, what's the it factor? But they always talk about Heisman moments. I don't necessarily think that C.J. Stroud ever had a moment where you could say that he won the Heisman with his play in a certain game. He's played well all season, but I just don't think he has enough there to win the Heisman. So I have him finishing at number 3. At number 2 is Max Duggan. His stats, he has 3,321 yards through the air, 30 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and he has 6 rushing touchdowns on the ground, over 400 yards rushing. He's had a great season, 64.9% completion percentage. Max Duggan is a fantastic quarterback, and I think he does have a shot to win the Heisman. But losing that last game really hurt, and I just think maybe the fact that TCU is not a brand team in a lot of people's minds, even though they made the playoff, might be the reason Max Duggan does not win the Heisman. I think he can win the Heisman. I think it's going to be very close between him and the number 1 candidate, but it's very close. But Max Duggan definitely deserves consideration for winning the Heisman, because he did have several Heisman moments all season, especially in the K-State game. Even though they didn't win, he played fantastic, bringing them back. And I think Max Duggan definitely deserves a shot to win the Heisman, but I think he's going to fall just short at number 2. And at number 1, we got Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams will win the Heisman in 2022. He has 66.1% completion percentage, over 4,000 yards passing, 4,075 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And on the ground, he has 372 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns. He just has the most stats on paper, And I think that that alone is why he's going to win the Heisman. 47 overall touchdowns and 4 interceptions. It's better than any of the other quarterbacks that are on the list. He has played fantastic all season. He has had several Heisman moments, running all over the field, passing all over the field. Yes, USC is not a playoff team, and I think that hurts his chances. And yes, he struggled a little bit in that last game against Utah, especially because he was hurt, but he still threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game, so you can't really knock him that much, even though he had a pick in that game. But I just think overall, I think that Caleb Williams has the best stats. He's had the most Heisman moments. USC's a brand team, and I really think that all those reasons alone is why Caleb Williams will win the Heisman. I think it's going to be very close between him and Max Duggan, but Caleb Williams just has more stats on his resume this season, and he's had a lot of great moments, and I think that Caleb Williams will win the Heisman in 2022. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Caleb Williams should win the Heisman or if any of the other 3 quarterbacks on the list should win the Heisman. And I will see you next time.